And now,
it's 10 a.m.
Let's just get down to it.
And it's time for your sports fix.
Strap yourselves in, folks.
From two guys who have covered the teams you're passionate about for years.
We are professionals.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Ben Anderson rolling solo once again. Jake Scott will be back with us coming up on Monday. Big show for you today, though. Mike Smith's going to join us coming up at 11 o'clock. We will talk about what we've seen so far from Jaren Jackson Jr. and the Utah Jazz. We got What You Got Wednesday coming up at 11:30. It's also a Win Ticket Wednesday, so listen throughout the show for your chance to win tickets. I believe we're sending you to go see Brian Regan coming up this weekend, so make sure you stay tuned. But I do think we need to start today with, feels like the biggest story to me, and that's that the Utah Jazz are suddenly becoming the focus of the NBA's tanking issue. And it is an issue. It's no question about it. I cover this Jazz team. I cover the NBA. I've been watching this for a long time. There is absolutely no question, and I won't defend it, that tanking is a major problem in the NBA. Obviously, it's a major problem in the NBA. I watch games every night. We had Yaron Weitzman on yesterday. He watches games every night. It's hard to find a game most nights with two teams that are trying to win at the highest level. That's an unreal issue. It's amazing that we even have to say it.
Even two playoff teams.
Even
right?
two playoff teams. Very regularly, this guy's not playing. Very regularly, this guy's injured. Very regularly, and I understand players not playing injured. I do, especially at this point in the season. We're in the dog days. It's not that advantageous. It's better to rest a guy who's 80% available and maybe in the 90s would have played through it to make sure that he's available for the postseason than to say, yeah, but didn't we have a great game on February 9th? I totally get that it's a problem. I promise you. I watch the league. I subscribe to League Pass. It's a problem every night, and I'm a victim of it too. You're a victim of it if you spend money to watch these games. I feel less of a victim about it because it is my job. I have to cover it, so it's just part of it. It doesn't matter to me that much, but I do like the idea of when I'm, done covering a Jazz game or there's no Jazz game that night and I'm still a huge NBA fan and I want to watch something, that when there's not a good game to be found, that's frustrating and that's disappointing. So I'm not saying there's not an issue in the NBA with tanking. It's one of the biggest issues, not just in the NBA, but I think in sports overall in our country. No question about it. And I will also not defend tanking. Not only is it not a problem, I won't defend it. I don't think it's right. I don't think you should be doing it. I think for a lot of teams, it's an excuse to not work harder as a front office. Now, some teams have a harder job. I will tell you legitimately, and I believe this, the Utah Jazz have a harder job to build a championship contender than the Los Angeles Lakers or the Miami Heat or the New York Knicks. Players are not looking to come live in Utah if they have 10 other choices. Players don't mind living in Utah. They don't. Guys like it here. Guys enjoy it here. But if you're picking a vacation spot and you want to go live in or go vacation in Miami or go vacation in New York or go vacation in Los Angeles or San Francisco or Dallas, maybe you like warm weather, or Atlanta, you would pick that. So if you would pick that for a vacation spot, you would also pick it for a home. So I totally understand why NBA players who, because there are a number of landing spots as a free agent, as a draft team, you may prefer to live somewhere other than Utah. I fully get that. And that does make the Jazz's job harder. I have no doubt about that. I'm also wary of the persecution complex that fans in this state can have. And look, everybody in every state, every sport has a persecution complex. Everybody thinks their team gets picked on. I try to not buy into it when I hear it. I have heard Utah football fans say, oh man, if we had just gotten a chance to play Florida, we would have been the national champions. We didn't get the playoff opportunity then. That's a problem. You might be right. You're not the only team that has that complaint. Boise State could say that. Anyone who played before the playoff can say that. So I don't think it was about you necessarily, but it's possible. BYU feels like they get left out of the college football playoff last year. We're being persecuted. Maybe Notre Dame had that same feeling this year. It does happen every year. So while I note it, I keep an eye on it, I throw it in the kind of tracking of patterns that we see. Is this consistent? Is this just a one-off? I pay attention to it. Jazz fans felt persecuted. Rudy Gobert doesn't get picked to the All-Star game. woe is me. Why are we not getting our love? Why are we not getting our shine? I pay attention. I get it. I think most teams in most states, most cities, whatever it is, have that same feeling. So I really try to not buy into it because I, A, don't think it's all that true, and B, I don't think it matters even if it is true. I don't think it actually helps your cause. So if it's not helping your cause, why spend any time on it? That's generally my rule. But what happened yesterday on ESPN with Bobby Marks was so insane to me that I actually did feel like I had to respond to it. And I went to social media and I responded. And it caused a little bit of a firestorm in my little window that I have on my social media. And if you want to see it, you can find me on Twitter at Ben's Hoops. And you can see the different things that I said and talked about. And I drew a lot of response from people, including some national media. Matt Moore came after me and said, and I'll explain what he said. But I'll let you hear from Bobby Marks. And I like Bobby Marks. When Bobby Marks is on a podcast, I listen to a lot of NBA podcasts. I will tune in. I like Bobby. His understanding of how the NBA salary cap works is as good as anybody. He used to work in the Brooklyn Nets front office. He understands this stuff. I think he's really good on that side of the game. He really understands contracts, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's a really valuable listen. But for Bobby Marks to have these comments yesterday, I thought was wild. Here's what he had to say.
I think what Utah is doing right now is messing around with the integrity of the NBA. The ability to sit players, starters, in the fourth quarter, to not call timeouts in the fourth quarter. Orlando won the game on Saturday because they basically rested players. And it backfired on them last night. So I think if you're the league, you're looking at it. All right, can we do some gimmicks? Can we alter protections and eliminate protections as far as picks? Or can we put the hammer down?
Nothing that he said in that conversation is necessarily wrong, minus the fact that he singled out the Utah Jazz as ruining the integrity of the NBA. This is a former NBA front office person on ESPN, one of the biggest, if not the biggest buyer of the NBA media rights on the planet. Certainly in our country, ABC, ESPN, that's where the games are on Sundays. That's where you're going to find these games. ESPN, Monday night, whatever it is, whenever they're on TV. To call out the Utah Jazz by name and put the integrity of the league on the Jazz not playing Jaren Jackson Jr. in the fourth quarter of a basketball game 96 hours after they acquire him is the most ludicrous thing I maybe have ever heard from a media member when talking about this particular issue. It is so stupid to say that. It is so reckless to say that. Because here is the problem. People do listen. That clip was circulating all over social media yesterday. And casual fans, which by the way is everybody, fans of the NBA are largely casual. Fans of all sports are largely casual. They do not follow it that closely. I have fans who come up to me, Jazz fans, they view themselves as diehards. If I say, who's your favorite player on the team, 3 times out of 10, they're going to say Gordon Hayward. He hasn't been on the team in a decade, but that's what they're going to say. That's about the level of attention 30%, 50%, 70% of fans have, even fans who go to the games. I'm not talking about you. If you're listening right now on a Wednesday about me talking about a Utah Jazz team that has 16 wins on the season, you're a diehard. You are in the top 1%, 2% of basketball fans out there because you found it on your radio dial to listen to more sports talk. You might not qualify for this, but most people, including people in the arena, are not you. They are not diehards like you are, and even if they consider themselves a diehard, they probably can't name 3 players on the team. So when you hear a national media member talk about the Utah Jazz, it's the only time they're going to talk about the Utah Jazz this season other than the Jaren Jackson Jr. trade itself. They're not talking about the Jazz. They've got no reason to talk about the Jazz. Jazz aren't that interesting. On a national perspective, why would you talk about them when Luka's out there, when LeBron's out there, when the Oklahoma City Thunder are out there, when the Knicks are out there, all of these different issues. So to only bring them up, to say that they are solely responsible for maintaining the integrity of the NBA and not playing Jaren Jackson Jr. or Lauri Markkanen in the fourth quarter of a game is ruining that integrity. You have a head coach right now in the NBA in Chauncey Billups who got arrested by the FBI for informing gamblers that they were going to lose a game. They were going to lose a game because of who was playing. And this is on the Utah Jazz. Now, you have one of the great players of this generation. In my opinion, the second greatest player of this generation, with all due respect to Kevin Durant. I think it's LeBron, and I think the next best player, okay, I'll say third because Steph Curry's number 2, is Kawhi Leonard. 2 finals MVPs, one in San Antonio, one in Toronto. When he's on the floor, he's as good a two-way player as we've had in the NBA. He's actively being investigated for getting kickbacks financially to circumvent the salary cap to go to the Los Angeles Clippers with the wealthiest owner in all of sports. That's corruption. That's actually circumventing the rules. That's cheating. That's actually cheating. That ruins the integrity of the game. If everybody agrees to a salary cap and the richest person, one of the richest people in our country, is able to circumvent that by fake planting trees with his star player to pay him more money under the table, behind the scenes, to get him to go live in a major city in Los Angeles, that's an actual problem. That calls into question the integrity of the NBA. Resting Jaren Jackson Jr. against the Miami Heat, resting Jaren Jackson Jr., and I'm not talking the whole game. I'm talking the fourth quarter of a basketball game after he had played 25 minutes. And Christian, remind me what happened against the Miami Heat.
Oh, they won.
The Utah Jazz won.
They won.
They won the game. They won this basketball game. And let me ask you, Christian, did they get outscored by 30 points in the fourth quarter and still found a way to hold on to that victory? No. They outscored Miami in the fourth quarter. They beat them 30-29 in the fourth quarter while resting their stars and playing their young players. And that's a Utah Jazz problem? You don't have a problem with the Miami Heat, who also weren't playing Norman Powell, who also weren't playing Tyler Hero. I don't know how healthy they were, but they weren't out there playing. And this is the Utah Jazz's problem? Now, the other issue here, and Matt Moore, who used to be a national NBA writer, I don't even know what he does now, came after me on social media because I called out an example specifically. And I remember, and look, is it apples to oranges? A little bit. The Oklahoma City Thunder, I remember this game. It's why it was the first name that came to my head, but I could go of every Raptors game last year. I could go to every Brooklyn Nets game last year. I could go to every Golden State Warriors game in the second half of the season in 2011 when they tanked to get Harrison Barnes. I could go back to the Houston Rockets in the early 80s to get Hakeem Olajuwon. This has been going on forever. But Matt Moore, who's like an intelligent person, said what the Jazz did by sitting a player in the fourth quarter is worse than a team that doesn't play their star players for the entire game. Because when you do that, at least the coach can go out there and say, well, we're trying to win because we're playing the worst players that we have on our team for 48 minutes, as opposed to just not playing Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr. for 12 minutes. Reminding him that the Jazz, last time they did this, which was 48 hours ago, they won the game. To say that it's better to have a team quit on a game before it starts by putting a roster on the floor that has no chance of winning is worse than sitting star players in the fourth quarter of a game the Jazz won does make me think that this is a personal issue, that this is an issue you have with the Utah Jazz or Danny Ainge or Will Hardy or Lauri Markkanen or Jaren Jackson Jr. And I don't know why. That's what I think I struggle with. Why the Utah Jazz? Who cares? Why would anybody care at that point? Is it just because it's easy? Maybe. Jazz are an easy punching bag. Never won a title. Karl Malone is a bad guy in the history of the NBA. John Stockton goes out there and is making a fool of himself right now on podcasts. It's easy to say the Jazz don't matter. LeBron James, I think it was Kevin Durant, whoever were the heads of the captains of the All-Star game when they started doing the All-Star draft, made fun of the Jazz on national TV during the draft. They said, we never played with the Jazz on video games growing up, so we're not going to pick Lauri Markkanen to be on our team. And they were laughing about it openly. Not going to pick, I think it was actually Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. They laughed about it. The Jazz have been a punching bag. Maybe it's that simple that they continue to be a punching bag. But to focus on them right now, as recklessly as what we saw from Bobby Marks yesterday, and maybe we should play the clip again, to call into question the integrity of the NBA is bizarre to me. Let's hear it one more time.
I think what Utah is doing right now is messing around with the integrity of the NBA. The ability to sit players, starters, in the fourth quarter, to not call timeouts in the fourth quarter. Orlando won the game on Saturday because they basically rested players, and it backfired on them last night. So I think if you're the league, you're looking at it. All right, can we do some gimmicks? Can we alter protections and eliminate protections as far as picks? Or can we put the hammer down?
I don't have a problem with fixing tanking. If you can find a way to do it, do it. I absolutely agree. To say that the Utah Jazz are the face of this is stupid. I mean, it's lazy. It's horrible work from a media member who does know better than this. And then if I actually want to argue what's better, because I talked about how casual NBA fans are. I ran into a friend at a Jazz game. If you don't know, media before Jazz games goes and eats in the Toyota Club. It's where all the other fans eat right now. The Jazz are figuring out their catering for the media before the game. So right now the solution is just go eat up in the Toyota Club. That's where you're going to eat your food. Very nice of the Utah Jazz to continue to feed us. I ran into a friend there, basketball fan, knows the game pretty well. 15 minutes before tip-off, they were like, "Hey, looking forward to this game." And I said, "Oh, well, Lowry's not playing. Like, don't get too excited. Like, this isn't going to be a great game that you're watching. Like, the product you are actually about to watch is not that good." They had no idea Lauri Markkanen was not going to be playing in this game. They had no idea that was the case. And they're like a real basketball fan. You know what they would have loved? Have him start the game. Have Lowry out there for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, which, by the way, go and look at how often the Jazz players over the last couple of games are playing exactly 25 minutes before getting pulled. If you want me to put on my tinfoil hat, that's a directive. That's a directive from somebody above them. Maybe it's the NBA. I don't know. But to play 25 minutes, so when people check box scores, it looks like they played a full game and they're getting pulled. If you're mad about why the Jazz are doing it this way, I would tell you to look higher than the Utah Jazz making this decision of who's playing what minutes and why. But if you want to make an argument, I remember, look, I'll get a little distracted here. I grew up in the state of Utah. My brother grew up in the state of Utah. Older than I am. We both played junior jazz growing up. I remember being jealous that my brother got junior jazz basketball tickets because those are the games we got to go to. My parents weren't able to buy a lot of tickets. We went to the junior jazz tickets. I'm sure a lot of Jazz fans have that same opportunity, or that was their same opportunity to go see the Jazz play. I remember being jealous my brother got to go see David Robinson play. He got to go watch the Spurs play, and he will remember that he got to see David Robinson play for the rest of his life. Do you think my brother could tell you whether or not the Jazz won that game? Do you think he has any concept of it? No. But you know what he can say? Yeah, I saw David Robinson play. You know what Miami Heat fans can say? You know what Orlando Magic fans can say? Because they're going to be casual fans because that's 98% of the people in the building. I saw Jaren Jackson Jr. and Lauri Markkanen play. What's the problem? Oh, I didn't know they weren't on the floor in the fourth quarter. I had no idea. And you know what I was happy about? My team actually did come back and win the game. The Orlando Magic were celebrating on the floor winning that game. It was ridiculous. The Jazz weren't trying to win that game. Bobby Marks is right about that. They were not trying to win that game. But if you were a fan and you bought a ticket to the game, you saw Lowry, you saw Jaren Jackson Jr., you saw Yusuf Nurkic, you saw Keontae George, I think, for the first half of the game before he got hurt. You don't know who's on the floor in the fourth quarter. Most fans don't. So if that's going to be your big issue, and you think it's better to just sit guys entirely, that the integrity of the game is based on whether they play the fourth quarter or not, I think is absolutely absurd. I think what Bobby Marks did was bizarre. I would tell you, I'd be willing to bet in the next week, if not today, he will come out and retract that statement and apologize. And if I were the member of the Utah Jazz, I don't represent the Jazz at all. But if I were Justin Zanuck or Austin Ainge, especially right now, my first year on the job, Danny Ainge, who has the history that he does, Ryan Smith, who's the owner of these teams and owns another professional sports team, I would raise hell. I would be at ESPN right now. I would be talking to their people. I'd be talking to their producers. And I would want to know, why are we getting singled out? Why are you letting somebody go on and make us the face of the NBA's problem right now? Do we take part in it? Sure. So does half the rest of the NBA. And over a long enough period of time, everybody in the NBA has done it. So if I were the Jazz right now, I would be incensed at Bobby Marks specifically, but that ESPN allowed it to go over the air. And I'm not kidding. And I know that sounds dramatic, and everyone's got to have opinions. Those opinions do sway public opinion. Those conversations do actually matter in the big picture. And I would want to know why the Utah Jazz specifically, if I worked for that company, were becoming the face of it. Because I think it was bizarre, and I won't be surprised if in the next 24 hours, Bobby Marks comes out and says, I was wrong to say the Utah Jazz, because he was. Because he was wrong to put it on the Utah Jazz, and it's bizarre. And I don't know why he did it. Maybe he doesn't come out. Maybe it is a personal problem. I have no idea. But it was insane, and it was wrong, and it was bizarre. The Jazz fans, I think, have to carry some of that.
Yeah, and, well, you almost wonder, too, if he's kind of parroting things that he has heard from other maybe front office members who don't have the platform or who don't want to come out and say it, right? Maybe he is choosing to kind of be the face of this and the voice of this, but regardless of why he's saying it, it is wrong, and it is unfortunate because that does put the target on the Utah Jazz from people around the country who already don't like the Jazz.
I think that's part of it. I also do think the Jazz are gaming the system in a correct way. That is, now they do have 2 All-Stars on their roster, and Keontae George looks like a future All-Star, and you've got Ace Bailey, and now you're adding another top 8 pick to it. I mean, if you want to say that like the Jazz are playing this system better than anyone else, I'd listen. It's not true. Other teams have gamed the system extraordinarily well. The Oklahoma City Thunder are loaded with talent. They've gamed the system extraordinarily well. The Warriors did by getting Harrison Barnes on a team that already had Steph Curry and was building out with Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson was going to get all these pieces. Everyone's done it. They've all done it. Teams have done this consistently. But yeah, the Jazz are about to be good quickly, and part of it is because of how aggressively they tanked. No question about it. I'm not arguing with that in the slightest. But to say that they're responsible for it is bizarre. And then, yeah, I got to mention here. Jimmy Robinson says, can you make an argument that the past couple of games is maximizing the growth of Ace? The first half, he gets to try to mesh with the future lineup. In the fourth, he gets to get more shots up, including crucial game with shots with game on the line. That is what the Jazz are doing. Like, go back and look at the fourth quarter and look at who played in that game in Miami and who's playing in Orlando. It's not Oscar Tshiebwe. It's not two-way player Blake Hinson. It's not Elijah Harkless. It is 2 lottery picks that were top 10 picks in the last 2 years. It's Ace Bailey and Cody Williams. Those guys have to play. You have to get those guys on the floor. You have to develop those players if you're trying to make the playoffs next season. Vince Williams Jr. and John Konchar, who have 12 years of combined NBA experience between them, were on the floor in this game. They were out there playing. Those guys do matter to what the Utah Jazz is doing. Kyle Filipowski and Isaiah Collier were borderline all-rookie team members last year. They need opportunities to play. So, yeah, if you give them minutes in the fourth quarter, they've got to get out there. And I don't know when you want the Jazz to do it. Do you not want Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr. to play the third quarter? Do you not want them to play the second quarter? Is that better, that those guys just come out there and play in the second quarter and the Jazz find themselves down 20 at half, and then you put it on Jaren Jackson Jr. and Lauri Markkanen to build a comeback? Like, I'm not sure what people are trying to regulate as far as the minutes go. And I think that's one of the bizarre aspects of this as well.
Well, yesterday you said spinning plates, right? There are all these different goals that the Jazz are trying to accomplish throughout these final 27 or whatever remaining games. Losing games is one of those plates. Developing Ace Bailey and Cody Williams is one of those plates. Seeing how Vince Williams and John Konchar fit with the rest of this roster over the next year or two is one of those plates.
Yes.
So they're not doing this specifically to maximize Ace Bailey's development, but that happens to line up with some of the other goals so they can do all of these things at once.
And here's the problem with the tanking conversation. The truth is, the further you zoom out, the more tanking is a winning strategy. And I know that doesn't make sense. Lose games today is a winning strategy. On the micro, it's bad. On the micro, no question about it. On the macro, it works. And that's the biggest problem with tanking, is it works. The Mavericks were right to tank to get Derek Lively because the next year they made the finals. End of story. End of story. You tank and you get rewarded with Tim Duncan. You win 5 titles over the next 20 years. It's good for you. It's good for your individual franchise. Is it bad for the league? Yeah. We don't reward winning enough, and we reward losing too much. No question about it. But to make the Utah Jazz the face of tanking is bizarre. Top 3 stories coming up next. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.